I'm so excited to introduce this man. This is Dr. Stefan Kassian. I don't even know where to start. There are so many amazing things to say about him. So I'm just going to go down the list of incredible things I've just learned. He is a transpersonal neuroscientist, and his private practice is focusing on brain regeneration. It's called SciTech, and he's down in San Diego. He's lived in the Amazon, and he still leads ethno-medical rejuvenative retreats to the Amazon. And he will be at booth 54, that where BioOptimizers is. So he is a medical advisor to BioOptimizers, and he'll be there to tell you more about the retreats, or for instance, to answer questions after his talk. Just so many amazing things about him. He's on staff at Bastyr. He's a naturopathic physician. He's associated with an institute dear to my heart, the Monroe Institute in Virginia. I could go on, but I will let him take the stage and give his talk. I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you hear? Can we hear me? Can we hear me? Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So we have a lot of great information today to cover and share, and I'm so glad you came to hear this talk, because we're here to talk about the roots of what we really need to do and be at our best. So we had the privilege of being introduced, so thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And I wanted to talk about some really important topics today about what are the three critical problems in digestion. We're going to cover why digestion fails for most people in this country, and how to get to the root cause of what your client's digestive illnesses and distress is. So stay here, pay really close attention, because we'll be sharing with you how to take advantage and empower yourselves and your clients with this information. I wanted to also introduce my friend and business partner, Wade Lightheart. Some of you have known about him. He is a genius and a legend in his field. He's an advisor to the American Cancer Institute. He has 15,000 clients, and he really made himself work hard for what he earned. In other words, he tries to do everything he can to empower himself and his clients, and he had his life story that brought him to where he is today. He was the 3-time Canadian drug-free national bodybuilding champion and Mr. Universe competitor, and he did that in an incredibly short time by optimizing his body with these tools we'll share with you today. So why am I here today? Well, we all had our stories about how we got onto our path. Often it's a life-changing event. And for me, it was an NDE, a near-death experience that happened after, in my case, the BS was brain surgery. I had a car crash into me, and it was a really shocking accident. And then a short time later, I had the worst headaches of my life, which led me to the hospital and emergency brain surgery. And yet, at the time, it seemed like the worst possible thing that could happen to me. But the gift of the NDE during the surgery, of traveling to the other side, if you want to call it that, and seeing the light, and then coming back and then having this body that was a mess, really took me to go back into my own roots and figure out the source of natural healing to put myself back together. So I'm grateful for the physicians for saving my life, but then my job is to empower myself to save my own life and put myself back together again. So that was after my PhD. So, in my PhD, I was studying transpersonal neuroscience. So how does the brain work, and what does it take to have exceptional human experiences? I mean, we're more than just this body, we're more than just this waking state. We have dream states, we have expanded states of knowing. A lot of you, I've noticed, just in discussion, we use intuition, we use kinesiology as a muscle testing. So we're complex energy systems, and that was what I studied. But here I go, 7 years of PhD to 7 hours of a brain surgery that got me the full experience, the full download of what I was studying. And you also have your stories as well that got you on this path. So really pay attention to what is it that brought you here today. So one of my main influences in my life was this guy named Big Daddy. He is a raw food health mentor born in 1901 and lived till 2015 when he attended my medical school graduation. So he's an amazing guy. In his picture, he was born 1901, but he's 108 in that photo. We did an event together at the Sedona Creative Life Center, and he's a vibrant, young, healthy man at any age. So he's proof that aging is just a choice, you know? And he ate extremely healthy. And one of the things he taught me is that diet today is not what it used to be like in the past. He explained how foods tasted better in the past. Our food system is compromised, if you will. Even if we eat good food, we're missing on essential elements in our diet that I will share with you shortly here. So pay close attention, because this is really important to consider. How do we make these things part of our life? So Big Daddy, he wrote a book about how he ate this kind of food. It was called Age Less, Live More. And we did an event at Sedona Creative Life Center, and that got me started on the path, because after my surgery, I started really taking charge of my body and figuring out, what do I need to eat? What kind of superfoods do I need to eat to get better? So as a naturopathic doctor, during my surgery recovery, I realized how important diet was to make me feel whole. And in the few years I got back on feeling completely whole physically, I resumed my training and went to naturopathic medical school, because naturopathy, using nature and the laws of nature and science to heal, are the base roots, are the roots of modern medicine as we know it today. And you see the top part of the pyramid is where Western medicine is. The allopathic system is really looking at, you have a pain, take some pills. You're hurting, let's give you some surgery. But we as nutritionists, you as nutritionists, and we as naturopathic physicians, we try to look at the base first, the fundamentals. What does it take to heal and be your best? Okay, so really the bottom line is establish the foundations for optimal health. And as physicians, we take the oath, first do no harm. So one of the least harmful things we can do is to establish the foundation for optimal health. So what are those things that we will cover today? We'll cover some essential tools to help you be your best. And stimulate the vis. It's the vital force in our body. But we have this natural intelligence that we can heal ourselves. We can heal ourselves by stimulating this force with natural remedies, with practices, with hot and cold compresses, with nature hikes. So these are the foundations. How do we increase that? And as nutritionists, we're dealing with the base level of, what do we need to put into our body to make it its best? Okay? So the other thing I did as a naturopathic medical student is I wanted to go deeper into my roots. What are the original naturopathic doctors? Who are the original healers in the world? Certainly you look at ancient practices of traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, which I was taught. But also, I was curious, what about the Amazonian traditions? We have shamans there. The Amazon is nature's largest natural pharmacy. So there was a doctor, Dr. Joe Tafur, who lectured at near my school, down in Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Tempe. I attended his talk, and he was a doctor who started a medical healing center in the jungles of Peru, and did it along with an indigenous shaman, a curandero. So I went there as a medical student. It was so profound in healing. The indigenous people there, they hardly get sick. They don't understand what stress is all about. And they did this dieta. It was a cleansing diet. So I realized how important that diet was, because when I did this, I noticed myself, my vital force just went through the roof, and I had a lot more energy to renew myself and get back into the medical school grind. So that just sprouted these tours that I keep returning every year, because it's so rejuvenative. So you all have your own story. I had mine, I shared it, and think about what brought you here today to want to help others with their health. And what's so crucial here in all these experiences I've had is to realize all disease begins in the gut. We have more little bugs in our gut than we do have cells in our body. And these are a combination of good and bad bugs. So we want to make sure we're optimizing the good ones, because they are our friends that help maximize our health. Without them on our team, we go down. So indigestion is an epidemic right now in this world. And the other thing is, I know some of you are snapping pictures, which you're welcome to do, but stay tuned. We'll give you an opportunity that you can contact us, and we'll share with you these PowerPoint presentations. You can reference them and study them at your leisure because there's much more than we can cover in this single little hour, but thank you for your patience. Okay, so 95 million, 1 in 3 Americans suffer from digestive issues, and 74% with daily GI discomfort, and 1 of 10 visits to the hospital are with GI problems. So this means a meaningful percentage of your clients will battle digestive issues, okay? And when you consider the emerging research on the gut-brain connection, the immune system, and even the heart-brain connection, it is super clear this is a problem we can't ignore. I know with clients in our Brain Rejuvenation Center that I lead, the clients who have depression, first thing I ask is, what do you eat? And as a naturopathic doctor, we check and we cooperate and collaborate with other health providers, such as nutritionists, to make sure that our clients are getting the best possible food in their body. And often they're not eating well, or even if they are eating well, they're not assimilating it, and that is a big problem. And that's a missing link that we'll discuss as well. So we also send them for neurotransmitter testing, right? If the brain is not getting the right neurotransmitters, then you will be depressed, and the gut produces neurotransmitters and helps synthesize them and assimilate them if the biome is correct and optimized. So there's a ton of research we draw from, and as a medical advisor, it's super important for me to make sure that what we work with we're working with the latest research drawn from around the world. And I'm extremely disciplined in wanting to make sure what we're doing is the latest and the greatest. So my goal is to help empower you and your clients with helping to overcome these symptoms. And the most common ones are indigestion, heartburn, constipation, and even more serious stuff. So think for yourselves, how many of you can think of either yourself or your clients, just raise your hand, that have some sort of digestive problems, okay? It's everybody. It's everybody. We either have something or we know somebody that has this issue. So it's extremely important to find solutions for this that work. So acid reflux and GERD, that's a common condition. So we're just traveling down the body. So as a physician, I had the privilege of opening up the body and looking at it, and I had this marvelous realization of seeing, wow, I mean, how sophisticated this temple that is our body that works, but it has its own wisdom if we can harness it properly. So bloating and gas, that happens down in the small intestine, and then constipation, diarrhea, that happens in the large intestine as the food travels. So if any one of these segments aren't properly functioning, you will have that backup, if you will. So the modern anecdotes, we know about these, and we try to practice them all the time. And this is at the base level of the therapeutic order that I mentioned, establish the foundations for optimal health. We know about diet and hydration. It's not just water, it's the proper water. So it's not just what you eat now, how you assimilate it, how is it sitting in your gut. Exercise and fasting. So one of my interesting studies was about Dr. Price, Weston Price. And who has heard about Weston Price? Okay. He's like our godfather. And, he talks about the indigenous diet and what were some features about it. The challenge right now in our modern world is that our diet, even if we eat the best, we're not quite sure if it's getting absorbed. We're not quite sure about the potency of the nutrition. So we will discuss how to maximize that. So the 3 most effective supplements for restoring digestion. So we know the problem. Now, what is the solution? Cultured enzymes, advanced probiotics, and hydrochloric acid. We know about the enzymes, and we'll cover each of these in one step at a time. The key is that the fact that they're cultured in such a way that you will figure out why they work better than others. Now, it's not just probiotics, because not all probiotics work, and I'll explain why. And it's not just hydrochloric acid, but what is it about it that makes sure it's optimized in your gut? So we'll also discuss some of the dilemmas. What are the probiotics dilemmas? And what are the enzyme and hydrochloric acid dilemmas? So probiotic dilemmas. You've heard about the Me Too movement, and we have that in our nutritional world too. Everyone has a cool new probiotic. They hit the market. No, mine has 12 different strains. Mine has 24. Mine you can refrigerate. So we'll cover why some of these are dilemmas. So number 1 myth is the more strains, the better. Okay, you've seen that. Bigger is better, more is better, right? Well, the challenge is that even the studies have shown that when you have multiple strains, they compete against each other in the gut, And so, they're not cooperating. That is the challenge. And we also don't know how they'll all interact, so more is not better. Another myth is that the more colony factory units, the better. And that's not also true either, because just because you have more units doesn't mean they actually made their way into the gut and they're even alive, okay? So a lot of companies, you'll read the labels and see tens of billions of probiotics. Is that better? That's not necessarily better at all. They seem impressive and powerful, but that's not the way it is. Most probiotics, by the time they hit the shelves, are already dead. And again, that's a false claim, because one of our colleagues, Naveen Jain, he did the Viome test, and unfortunately he found that this is a state-of-the-art test you can do at home, that the good bacteria in your gut, most of the probiotics just do not colonize in the gut. They just don't work. So one of our buddies, Ben Greenfield, who is a major biohacker in the field, he tries everything on himself. He's like a living experiment. And his report was shocking. Nothing he tried, there was only one strain that actually even made his way into his gut, okay? And he took capsules from different companies. So this is money we're flushing down the drain, literally, and we're doing a disservice to our clients if we're not empowering them with the right tools for that, okay? And you could try other gut tests and see. There's a special gut test we use at our clinic as well that is pretty shocking what we find. And so this is the future that's coming, to really pinpoint and check and see, is our probiotic working, and what is the status of our gut and our gut health? So another pro tip, do not depend on probiotics that require rejuvenation. I know when my colleague Wade told me about this, I was shocked. I said, what? I thought the refrigerated ones were better. But if you think about it this way, he was explaining that I fell for this trap. He said if a probiotic needs to be refrigerated, just think about what it took to get it there. They had to get refrigerated, but they went through heat, through customs, or through irradiation or other things that would have degraded it at that point. And also consider in our gut is a lot higher in temperature than a refrigerator, okay? So you want a probiotic that can survive your truck, the warehouse, the delivery truck, the store shelves, so it's still alive when you take it. Otherwise, you're throwing money out the window. So the tool, and write this down or note it, is you want to find a freeze-dried probiotic. One that goes through a special process that it removes the heat out of it, freezes it, takes the water out, and then has it in a bit of a suspended animation, if you will. And then when you hydrate it, it can resume its activity and pick up where you left off. So you do need, given all this noise, you do need to be the guide. You're playing this important role for your clients to help them discover what the best probiotic is. So let me also explain that obviously it's not just about the probiotics, it's about the base level diet. I've covered a few different diets I knew that have worked, the Amazonian dieta, the raw food diet that I studied, the Tree of Life, Big Daddy's diet, if you will, that he wrote about in his book, eating lots of superfoods. But it's not just the diet, but the key is you want to still have the right foundation, and that includes a broad array of fruits and vegetables. We know this, but now there's research, and the slide that you can get from us, because this PowerPoint doesn't show some of the research citations that I have and Wade and I put in here, but these are valuable things for you to look up. They did found that a broad diet gives you a broad base of good bugs in your gut that can work together synergistically. And more natural fiber, the fiber is food, prebiotics for your bugs in your body. Eliminate artificial sweeteners. That's an obvious one, and yet they can make their way into a lot of stuff, a lot of soft drinks and things that maybe our clients will just slip in there. Practice intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is very interesting because the studies have shown that even if we eat a standard American diet, or we do our best, but we're busy traveling and stressing ourselves, or we have some cheat foods at sometimes, so we want to make sure that we reset our gut. And some intermittent fasting once a week, once a month, for a few hours actually gives the chance for the gut to reset. And this happened with mice. They were fed an obesity-inducing diet, and yet with intermittent fasting, they were actually able to reset their gut and not be so subjective to the obesity ingesting foods, if you will, obesity-inducing foods. And here's a crucial point. Use a proven single probiotic to eliminate the bad guys. A single strain. Okay, that's the controversial thing to hear. Why single strain? Well, why a single strain, you ask? Well, a single strain has something like such as L. plantarum Om. This is a strain that has been tested and researched, and these are like the Navy SEALs of the probiotic world. We've been able to study these and research them to make sure they're more capable of killing pathogens, especially viruses and parasites. So a proteolytic enzyme is one that can see the protein in a virus and be able to address that. And in this day and age, immunity is so crucial because you have a whole array of toxins, environmental toxicities that we have never had before. Babies are being born with environmental toxins constantly. And so this wears on our immune system, which makes it even that much more important to have a probiotic we take to be able to be the Navy SEALs of the world and actually kill off the bad bugs in our body. So this is a product. Also, the key to see is the probiotic you're taking patented? If it's patented, it also means that there's money and research invested in its effectiveness. And RP3OM is powerful proteolytic and probiotic. So these are the 3 Ps to consider. Ask yourself, is the probiotic I'm taking that quality? So the proven benefits, if something is that good, it actually will be patented. So I covered the Navy SEALs. You want that army to protect you. And, this also happened from Wade's story. So Wade was Mr. Universe, using raw food, healthy food, vegan food, vegetarian food, working in that spectrum of the world. And he ate for performance. So his body built up incredibly well, and he was able to accomplish in weeks what it would have taken others months to do. And he found afterwards his body crashed because he was eating for performance and not necessarily feeding his gut from the inside out. So he went out on this rampage and tried every single product out there, and it was only until he discovered one of his doctor friends that I'll explain later. He had discovered this probiotic and was taking it consistently, and he looked like half his age, like my friend Bernardo Lapayo, Big Daddy. So the key with Bernardo is he had some really good probiotics in his body that he was born with and were naturally cultured in his body from all the healthy eating he had and from eating healthier foods that we don't exactly have today. We don't have today. When wheat was originally crafted, in the early 1900s, this was some other research, it had a much higher protein content than it does today. So we'll cover a little bit of that in a moment. So one of our clients, Carrie Hendricks, had tried our probiotic. She had SIBO before, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and she found after a few weeks of being on these P3OM, she had amazing results with the bowel movement, which did not happen with her before, and almost non-existent gas. So she started her husband on them as well. He didn't know what we were giving him, but 5 days into it, he said this is the first time he had consistent relief from constipation and bowel discomfort. And another client had tried the P3OM, and 90% of her digestive issues got resolved. And interestingly, we were just noting this morning that some of you had visited our table and muscle tested. Your body knows. Your body has that wisdom energetically. And they were just, your body's tested strong because there's something internally that you sensed that your body responded that these probiotics were great for you when you held them in yourself. So there is that other energetic component. And incidentally, Wade and I had met 10 years ago at David Hawkins' conference in Sedona, Arizona. And this was, David Hawkins was an MD PhD who studied kinesiology as a way to testing your body, testing your muscles to see how powerful a product was, see how powerful an idea or a concept was. So this is an incredible tool to help your body validate. So we talked a little bit about probiotics, and what I'd like to say also is we're not here to sell you anything today. We're here to give you a gift of offering you the chance to to try these probiotics. And so stay tuned at the end. We'll show you how you can obtain them as a gift, because we're so privileged to be able to share our findings with you today. The enzyme dilemma now. So the enzyme dilemma, we know why do horses know which grass to eat? Do they just eat? What is it that they sense? So some bears, when they're hungry, they go grab the salmon. They grab the fresh salmon right from the lake, right from the stream. Why do they do that? Well, because food that is close to its natural state as possible has the highest biophoton content, if you will, and has the highest enzymatic potential. So what are enzymes? I'll cover that in a moment, but to me they're very simply worker bees to help make sure our chemistry, our biochemistry is moving forward. So enzymes are highest in raw food before food is cooked. And you could see the difference between a raw tomato and a cooked tomato, for example. Now, we can't always eat raw food, and it may not be practical even. I know for certain periods of time I did raw food, but there's compromises we make in life. So enzymes are the key to help promote this and promote our body. So they are like the workers. They move reactions forward in our body. And humans are curious, but we are the only beings on this planet that I know that cook its food. And enzymes begin to deplete rapidly with age, because when food is cooked, it requires enzymes to digest it. And the body will take from itself to create those enzymes. And it may draw from itself as well. So how do you put in enzymes into your body effectively? This is the same reason why after Thanksgiving you're like, we all know the feeling. So this is where enzymes can come in handy. And I know I'm an enzyme lover. I mean, these are one of our flagship Masszymes, and I just munch on them like they're candy. You know? I just had more, and in fact, I could feel a difference in 30 or 60 minutes, so pretty soon I'll be heading off to the stars. And what I like to do is to offer a little enzyme demonstration. Here are some lovely oatmeals that I mixed with some water, and some lovely oatmeals that I mixed with water. So I actually popped in some enzymes here, another one here. Okay. So let's let that percolate for a moment and see what does it do. Because we are empiricists. We like to see stuff work. It's one thing to say, you know, that's a great concept, but I like to test things out. I'm an experimentalist, as is Wade. So the lack of enzymes can create that hangover feeling. There's so much you can take in terms of drugs before it's fatal. If I kept popping, drugs in my body, I mean, we have the opiate crisis. So pills have a limited function. We want to work naturally as possible. With enzymes, there's really no upper limit. So watch me pop another enzyme in there. Mm-hmm. Yum, yum. Okay. So this is where Wade and I like to do our enzyme demo. So let's let that percolate for a while. This has been just a few more minutes. Let's pop another enzyme here. My oatmeal's hungry. So not all enzymes are the same. Okay, so there's food-based enzymes, right? Papain, bromelain. Papayas have their own enzymes built in that help digest the papaya. And so with pineapples as well, bromelain. There's animal-based, so WOB enzyme you've heard. So we can take those as well. Ox bile, examples. So I mean so with terms of animal-based, those work in a very low pH spectrum with acidic ranges. There's also systemic and cultured enzymes. So what are those? Those are enzymes that are specifically engineered to be able to multiply rapidly and induce a state where they're the most effective. Okay, so that is where we're actually growing enzymes to be extremely effective, and we actually put them in a range where they're proteolytic. They can break down proteins, they can break down starch, amylase, and also break down sugars, okay? And fats as well. So that's where the lipase comes in. So you want enzymes, you want a blend that can address all these things. Now, I know for me, with my own recovery, and even with skin tissue, enzymes work well that way too. Now, I also didn't cover other enzymes you have, so nattokinase or serrapeptidase, which come from fermented soy or from silkworms. So you have different types of enzyme products, but you want an enzyme product that can address the full spectrum. So for me, the enzymes helped me heal my scar tissue from the brain surgery. Okay, so that's super cool and super key. So you hear about saunas. So the reason why saunas work well is because the heat inside the body kicks up the biological processes and helps allow our own enzymatic functions to increase faster. Okay, so enzymes and the body processes are heat responsive, which is why when you have a fever, why do we have a fever? Because we're trying to accelerate our body process. Okay, so here we go. You see this, the oatmeal here? So the oatmeal here is more like liquefied. And here, it's still lumpy, okay? So just in a few minutes alone, the enzymes help with digesting the food, and it'll keep processing as we go. So Wade's enzyme story came from Michael O'Brien. This was his doctor mentor who was able to show how the enzymes were able to address a lot of digestive issues in their clients. And with Wade, Masszymes were designed because he did not eat meat. He did not get traditional protein sources you think a bodybuilder needs, and yet he was able to build these big muscles. Look at these muscles of these bodies from enzymes, okay? Because the enzymes helped break down the foods into the basic amino acids used to build proteins in the body, okay? And the cool thing with Masszymes is you can literally feel the difference in an hour or so because they're accelerating the natural process in your body. I take them with food. I also notice that the food seems to digest faster and also helps assimilation, okay? So the enzymes are catalyzing all of that, and the body uses them where it needs them. I feel it also helps with depression. And I have found that as well because the brain needs neurotransmitters synthesized, okay? So again, we have a short time left, and we may not be able to cover everything, so I'll be flying through this. But again, at the end, I'll give you a chance to get these slides from us so you can continue your studies. So mindful eating as well, built into our bodies, helps with inducing the enzymes in our digestion, right? So there's a few different reasons why we want to eat mindfully. Also, the body, when we're stressed out, shunts digestion blood away from our stomach, right? During sympathetic state, we are not resting and digesting. We're fight or flight. And the body, the being is dealing with our stressor. So we want to eat mindfully. Chewing the amylase from our parotid gland helps break down the starches and does the work for us. So these are preventative issues. We're about empowering you, not simply about taking capsules. So now the hydrochloric acid dilemma, okay? You know, we've heard about some of the common gastric problems. So stomach acid also is gastric acid, essential for digestion. And when we cannot produce enough gastric acid, then we have digestive issues downstream. As naturopaths, we're taught to treat the root cause, okay? And the root cause of a lot of problems is we just are not digesting our food properly once it hits the stomach. And I see a few nods, okay? So thank you for seeing my point. And the critical factor in your clients with difficulties. So the stomach secretions, there's a mixture of enzymes, hydrochloric acid, and mucus coating. And hydrochloric acid helps break down your body, digest and absorb nutrients, especially carbs and protein, okay? So low levels of hydrochloric acid, and this is important for us to consider, what are your clients going through, okay? So you will have upset stomach, nausea, acid reflux, and I will discuss a very important paradox that modern medicine still is mistaken about with acid reflux, and I'm getting a few more nods. So I love how we're all on the same page here. Thank you so much. This is so great to speak with you. And heartburn, malnutrition, and skin issues. So skin issues, how does that work? Well, the skin's an important organ of elimination, and if downstream the nutrients are not properly assimilated, the skin will reflect that. Also, you know, this is also important because the food's not getting broken down, and your body might even absorb toxic components in the food because they're not getting broken down. Osteoporosis. Now, wow, I remember a client, perfect case, a patient of mine, she had osteoporosis, was put on calcium, and she had low hydrochloric acid, and she was on a proton pump inhibitor. So we'll discuss that in a moment, why proton pump inhibitors are so funky, if you will. Leaky gut syndrome, diabetes, cancer, asthma, rheumatoid arthritis, and small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And now why would that be? Well, the food in your gut, in your stomach is not getting properly digested, so it starts fermenting. And the bad bugs in it are not getting properly digested initially. So we initially think of heartburn as a cause of too much acid, resulting from too much acid. But in reality, heartburn is from not having too much stomach acid, but rather too little of it, okay? So the pyloric sphincter is, you see here, the lower esophageal sphincter is closed. We have the esophageal tube and the esophageal sphincter after that, before food hits the stomach. And acid itself is what it responds to that causes it to close. So what happens when you tell the stomach with a proton pump inhibitor not to secrete acid? Well, the sphincter doesn't close, and acid will go back up in, causing the gastroesophageal reflux problem. So this is an important point because proton pump inhibitors were only recommended to be used for a certain number of weeks, not extremely long term. Okay, so we want to give a better solution, and hydrochloric acid in a proper form is important and ideal. So this is a case of a physician who, and there's more notes here that we'll have time to cover when you have a chance to look at the slides here. But this physician has dealt with constant cases of patients with low hydrochloric acid that were never tested. The acid levels were never tested, and they were given proton pump inhibitors as a matter of course. And they were still not treated. So by looking at how to increase hydrochloric acid safely in the body, that addresses a lot of these problems. So 90% were not tested and misdiagnosed. And we covered why the esophageal sphincter issue is so important. Okay, and the excess gas and bloating is caused by low stomach acid. So Dr. Robillard's book, Heartburn Cured, reveals that shocking fact. So 30 grams of carbs, and who does not eat 30 grams of carbs in a single day? If it escapes absorption in a day, it could produce more than 10,000 milliliters of hydrogen gas. So that's a lot of gas just from 30 grams of carbs, okay? So that is one more reason why hydrochloric acid is so crucial. And if you're eating protein, animal proteins, all the more reason to have hydrochloric acid as well, because that downstream, the stomach, the intestines can't deal with that. And this is why the excess gas just amplifies the proton pump inhibitor problems, and it's just a circle, a bad circle. So why stomach acid is good for you? There's a story of a man going gray from poor acid, okay? So once more, his hydrochloric acid was super low. So here's an interesting test you might want to try or have your clients try, is the bicarb test. So what happens is you take about a cup of water and mix it with a quarter cup of bicarb, baking soda, and drink it. So you will see in 5 minutes or so, the bicarb mixes with the acid in the stomach. If your stomach has enough acid, you will burp. But if you don't burp, or if it takes too long, you know you don't have enough acid. So that's something you'd like to try, an informal way to try it. So another couple tips to work with stomach acid. So use apple cider vinegar with meals as a digestive aid. So I love that. That's one of my tonics with the water. And ironically, or paradoxically, apple cider vinegar actually helps alkalinize the blood as well. That's how it works in both functions. But that's a bit of a digestive tonic, if you will, and it helps your food digest. So just have some of that. And also warm water seems to help as well. Cooler water slows the digestive processes, and not too much water. You don't want to dilute the hydrochloric acid that's in there. So use a betaine hydrochloric acid supplement on a daily basis. So these are naturally produced in beets. There's other forms as well, but that is one of our superior forms. And the betaine hydrochloric acid is a form that, when mixed with minerals and other enzymes, that forms an ideal combination, if you will, that lets the body absorb it. And again, we want to offer you a gift because Wade and I are so excited, and the whole team here who's supporting our research and our mission here. We'd like to offer you these free of charge. How many of you would love to have samples of the probiotics and the P3OM and the hydrochloric acid? Well, we have a link for you. It's bioptimizers.com/NTA. bioptimizers.com/NTA. This is only good through March 3rd at midnight. This is the link specifically for us who are attending the conference. And we're doing this because we believe in it so much, and we want to make sure you have a chance to try them out and empower your clients and yourselves. So there's no shipping fees. It's just a gift because we've seen how well they work. So on our website, you'll also have a chance to see P3OM and Enzymes break down food for better digestion in real time. Okay, so look at what's happening here. So you see the enzymes in the oatmeal, it's almost like a milky liquid. So this is one sample way to test and see this oatmeal. Whoops. So there we go. It's a little bit of extra water, but literally this sticks to your gut. And here's the oatmeal. It's all nice and liquidy. So how about that with your food? I mean, this is where assimilation is critical because we can feed ourselves the best food possible, but what use is it if it's not getting broken down? You want to add energy into your body instead of a net energy loss, okay? So that is the key here. And you will see P3OM and Enzymes break down meat in real time. And that is a very tough road to hoe, you know, to make sure this is the way you can make sure your supplements are working. So here's the last little story. This was me with Wade and our friend Callie in Vancouver. I was interviewing for residencies a few years ago in Vancouver, and Callie, last we heard, she moved to Maui, and she's the dolphin whisperer. She would sing, and apparently the dolphins would come and join her. And we haven't heard from her since then. She moved to Maui, so maybe she became a dolphin. And you know, Wade and I met 10 years ago, and it was the shared values that really brought us together. We had this one common heart and vision. We both had massive life experiences that changed us completely. For me, that near-death experience got me a lot more interested in spirituality and getting heavy-duty into that. Also got me a lot more interested in health and my own health and rejuvenation, also just on this path to wanting to share what really works and helping others. So, you know, and it's really about the heart, and that's what we're all working together and wanting to help people with that. So again, we encourage you to come and check out our free link and get some samples for you. So, oh, lovely. Yes, so we do have 10 minutes for questions. And feel free to come up to the mic and share your anecdotes or stories or any questions you'd have.
You might just have to speak into it so that the AV guys can get it on.
I have questions about your Amazon trips and then some of the things that you do for medicine there.
Sure. So the questions about Amazon trips and the medicine there. There's so much to say about this, but the Amazonian tribes, I just had a passion because, you know, my lineage, I came from a line of Ukrainian landowners and farmers who were oppressed by government persecution. They lost their land during World War II and the Bolsheviks, so they came into the States here and for a better life. And I heard the plight of the Amazonian tribes, the Haraku tribes, for example, one of the ones that we visit. They're endangered. You know, their land is at risk. They actually don't have land of their own, if you will, and their traditions are at risk. And I really wanted to go to the jungles and experience their natural skills and their stories. So some of the highlights of what that involves is, you know, we get to live side by side with the tribes. I also visit the Shipibo tribes. They're a tribe in northern Peru or around different parts of Peru and the Amazon basin who discovered the use of plants and plant medicines and natural dieting to cure, they call it curare, to cure a lot of ailments and conditions. They have a language and a way of speaking with plants that goes beyond the norm. I call it plant whispering. They have a tradition for 3,000 years in the making of working in ceremonial fashions and communicating with plants and merging with them in their consciousness. So the plants have a mind of their own, if you will, and during some of these ceremonies they were informed about how to mix these two plants together to produce a brew, if you will, that now we hear about it in the media and FDA doing clinical trials and a lot of research about its curative properties, called La Medicina, if you will. So that's just one of the plants that they work with. The shamans do a dieta, which we experience in traditional fashion there if we go as guests to their centers. We live in the jungle, in huts next to the Amazon tributaries. And they feed us a diet 3,000 years ago as they would have fed to a shaman to prepare their bodies for receiving the full nutrition of a plant. And the plant, to me, and for them, isn't just the biochemistry. It's about the spiritual and energetic properties of the plant that you get to communicate with. So in the world of the shamans, the plant has 3 different properties. It can teach, it can heal, and it can also nourish you. We're used to as nutrition, plants nourish us. But can a plant heal? Well, sure. But also, can a plant teach? And that's the mystery that we get to experience in person. By cleansing and purifying our bodies through this dieta, if you will, there's certain foods we eat and certain foods we don't eat that they feed us to cleanse our body, and it prepares us for the other levels of nutrition in the plants. So we get to participate side by side and do ceremonies with the indigenous people, and also lecture with them about plants. We come in as clients and they'll actually tell us which plant we would diet on a daily basis as a single dose plant, if you will, that they get fresh from the jungle to address certain common ailments and conditions. It's a very powerful transmission, and it's not simply knowledge or information you can get. So, I feel proud to be a part of that movement and protecting these endangered medicines, if you will, and spreading the word, and also being a liaison for these places that I trust to go to, rather than just going on the internet and thinking you find a place in Peru and even getting hurt possibly. These are places I trust and I have a long-standing relationship with. So we get to participate on multiple levels of learning the ancient ways that are getting lost. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? I'm going to make sure that
the link to the slides. Okay, so that's a good question. So when you register on this bioptimizers.com/NTA, you will be able to call us and get the slides. We'll send them to you once you register. But you'll hear from us. You can just contact us, and we'll send you the slides. There's a lot more there on the slides that I didn't have time to cover, including a lot of research links and so forth. So it looks like I'll be staying at least through today, and I'll be around at the table there if you're interested in hearing about some of the Amazonian adventures, and obviously we'd love for you to come and say hi. Table 54, please. If I'm not there, you may be able to ask the staff and include your email or phone number, and we can send you information via the Amazon trip on a separate sheet of paper or something. So thank you so much. I wish I had more time to cover these things, but thank you.